Do you want to play a game? Ghouls podcast.
They're here.
Welcome to Blood, Gore, and Ghouls podcast. I'm your host, Ian Van Ghoul. As we do each week, we'll be talking about horror movies, news, fun facts, and anything else horror-related that you'd like to hear about. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Blood, Gore, and Ghouls _podcast and send us an email at bloodgoreandghouls@gmail.com. And we have yet another special guest this week. She's a ghoul, a friend, and my personal secretary. Please welcome Ghouli Juli to the show.
Thank you.
What's up, Julie? How are you?
I am good. I'm a bit tired as always, but we're hanging in there.
I feel that.
Adult life is just nothing but tiredness. you know?
Well, yeah, they don't tell you that when you're a kid.
No.
So we'll get into a few horror questions here for you
All right.
to break the ice.
Break it.
So, what's your favorite scary movie?
Gee, I don't know. Maybe the one that we're talking about today.
Think there's a reason I had you on for this one?
I would hope so.
So, without a doubt, Friday the 13th.
Absolutely. Favorite horror franchise of all time. Friday the 13th.
Fair enough. So, is there a particular movie that you watched too young that may have fucked you up a little bit?
Oh man. Well, I think a lot of them, honestly. My parents were the type to just rip movies off the internet and burn them to DVDs. So I had books of DVDs that at my fingertips that I should not have been watching. I watched Cujo way too young. I was like 8 years old when I watched Cujo. I was afraid of St. Bernards for a little while after that. I watched a lot of sci-fi stuff. That one movie that I had you review, Mind Ripper, watched that too
Okay.
young. No good reviews there. It messed with me very young. I've just been a huge horror fan since I was young because my mom was always into Stephen King. So it was just, that's what introduced me to things. So any of the horror movies that I had available to me were giving me nightmares, but I still wanted to watch them.
That's how it starts. That's how it always starts. So, who's your favorite final girl in all of horror?
It's a tough choice between Laurie Strode and Alice Hardy, just because Alice kicks off the whole Friday the 13th franchise. She's the first final girl in the franchise, so
Tough one.
I think she inches out Laurie Strode just a little bit.
I'm fine with that. We're going to have a whole episode on that in the future, but I just wanted to
Okay.
get your thoughts on it.
Absolutely.
So, off the top of your head, and in your opinion, what's the worst horror movie you've ever watched?
The worst horror movie I've ever watched. I think this is a tough one because I've seen so many terrible B-rated horror films that it's just very tough to put all of them in a list. There's just an amalgamation of so many of them. I don't know. It's very tough to say.
It's all right. We can skip that one.
All right.
Too many to list.
Yeah, way too many to list. There's a lot of terrible horror movies, but at the same time, I also love terrible horror movies.
Well, yeah. You got to love them all. Some are just better than others. And what's an upcoming horror movie that you're most excited about?
What do we have upcoming?
Five Nights at Freddy's,
I am.
Thanksgiving.
I'm really excited about Thanksgiving because there's an actor in there that I watched in a different show. But I definitely want to go see Five Nights at Freddy's in theaters.
Awesome. All right, we'll kick it into some horror news from the past week, and we'll start off with some sad news first tonight. We lost two horror greats this past week. So Piper Laurie passed away yesterday, October 14th, at the age of 91. Now, Piper was, of course, known as Carrie White's mother in the 1976 film Carrie, as well as Mrs. Olsen in 1998's The Faculty. Now, Jeff Burr also passed away on October 11th at the age of 60. And Burr was most notably the director of Leatherface, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, but also directed From a Whisper to a Scream, Stepfather 2, Night of the Scarecrow, Pumpkinhead 2, Blood Wings, and quite a few others. So, it's always sad when we lose horror legends, but hopefully they're in a better place. Some other news here, Miramax has won the bidding war for the Halloween franchise rights. It was initially looking like A24 was going to take them, But in the end, it was Miramax that landed the franchise. It looks like it's going to be a television show that will launch into a cinematic universe. I'm not sure how I feel about all this yet. I'm hoping it's still a few years before we get anything new. But I do love me some Michael Myers. I just need some time away and to grieve after the shit show that was Halloween Ends. How do you feel about Miramax taking Halloween now?
I'm okay with it. I think they'll do it justice, especially if they do like a TV show and it goes into the cinematic universe, like you were saying it is. I mean, Miramax has a long history of like good things, so I think they'll have a really good budget to be able to put into things at least.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna stay optimistic.
Yes.
But yeah, I think we need some time away from Michael and the Halloween franchise just for a bit. In other news, VHS has already announced a 7th installment in the franchise. Now, they announced this at New York Comic Con. Apparently, this is a particular installment that will focus on sci-fi inspired horror stories. I wasn't the biggest fan of VHS 85, although a lot of people seem to be enjoying it. But I am intrigued by this announcement, and it's slated to release sometime next year in 2024. Are you up to date on VHS? Have you watched any of them? Have you watched any of them?
I've watched 2 of them.
The first 2?
Yep.
The best ones.
Yes.
Yeah, in my opinion, they nothing has lived up to the first 2, but we'll see. We'll see what this sci-fi inspired stuff is. I'm kind of curious about that.
I'm a huge sci-fi fan too, in addition to horror, so maybe it'll do justice.
Hopefully, we'll see. And we got some new updates about the new Strangers trilogy from New York Comic Con as well. They'll be titled Strangers Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3. Now, Chapter 1 is said to be something of a remake of the original 2008 movie, while the sequels will blaze a new path from there. So the synopsis is as follows for the first movie. Madeline Pesh of Riverdale fame stars as a character who drives cross-country with her longtime boyfriend to begin a new life in the Pacific Northwest. When the car breaks down in Venus, Oregon, they're forced to spend the night in a secluded Airbnb where they are terrorized from dusk till dawn by 3 masked strangers. So, how do you feel about that?
Why has it got to be the Pacific Northwest?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I'm sure there's a great reason for it.
Good scenery at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed the first movie. The sequel could have been a lot better. But yeah, I wasn't sure if this was going to be it couldn't really be a direct sequel to the second one, but I was curious what they were going to do with it. But yeah, apparently they're kind of rebooting it from the beginning. So I don't know. We'll see.
Just going to bypass the timeline that already happened.
Yeah. Well, just kind of be a reboot, remake type deal, I guess. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. There's a small little like 1-minute clip on YouTube that has the same kind of like I can't remember the name, but the whoever the masked girl asked for at the door.
Okay.
Like Tamara, I think. And it's the same exact thing again. She's like, is Tamara home? Which they've done in both the movies now. So yeah, I don't know.
I'll have to go watch the clip.
Yeah. It was all right, but it wasn't anything that would made me like excited for it.
Right, it didn't draw you in, so.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see though. We'll give it's got plenty of time to be worked on, so we'll see. And the final bit of news here, I've started watching The Fall of House of Usher on Netflix this past week. It's Mike Flanagan's final Netflix production, and each episode is dedicated to a different tale of Edgar Allan Poe while following one main narrative throughout. I've really been enjoying it. I don't usually have much time for TV shows since I do have to find time to watch a different horror movie every day, but there are those rare few that I'll make time for, and this is now one of them. So I personally definitely recommend checking it out. I'm halfway through. I just finished episode 4. You said you started watching it as well?
Yeah, I think I've only seen up to the 2nd episode.
Okay.
And so far, I love it.
Right? Yeah, I've watched all of his stuff except for Midnight Club. I haven't checked that out yet. But everything else I'm a huge fan of, so this is no different. I'm really enjoying it. So far, it might be my favorite of his Netflix shows. So, I don't know. I guess I'll report back next week
Yes.
once I have finished it.
I also need to finish it. So
For sure. So, this past Friday was a very special day. It was, of course, Friday the 13th, and in October nonetheless. Now, I was busy, unable to actually record on that day, but we are celebrating it a little late, and that's okay. Today, we're talking about the Friday the 13th franchise, and we will try to make sense of this fucked up timeline. So, as always, with the twisted timelines and horror series, there will be spoilers for any and all of these movies, so beware. So, as I do more episodes of the show, I'm slowly learning from my mistakes. With the previous 2 twisted timelines, I've quite literally looked up every single movie in the franchise, made my own notes about them. It was very time consuming and at some points very confusing. So this time I went straight to Wikipedia, found a quick summary of each movie. So we'll use that tonight and see how it goes. So without any further ado, let's get into the twisted timeline of Friday the 13th. So, in the original Friday the 13th, Mrs. Pamela Voorhees stalks and murders the teenagers preparing Camp Crystal Lake for reopening. She's determined to ensure the camp does not reopen after her son Jason drowned in the lake due to the negligence of 2 staff members. The last counselor, Alice Hardy, fends off Mrs. Voorhees long enough to grab a machete and decapitate her. So that is the quick little summary of the very first movie. What do you think?
this movie was not my introduction to Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Jason X was.
Oh,
Yes.
what a twist.
What a twist. So like I already had known who Jason was and like the icon that he was. So when I first watched this movie, it threw me through a loop that Pamela Voorhees was the killer.
Right?
The end decapitation scene just stuck with me for a little while.
Is this the best one?
No.
All right.
In my opinion, no.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean this one it's a classic. Obviously it kind of kickstarted a lot of things in the horror world.
Mm-hmm.
It did piggyback off of Halloween, but I think they're similar in the fact that they're slashers, but they're different enough that it's not a ripoff.
Right.
And of course, this first one stars Kevin Bacon.
Yes, that oh man, that death.
Right?
The arrow through the neck.
Yeah, the slow penetration to Kevin Bacon. I mean, who doesn't love that? But yeah, it's a classic, and yeah, the fact that Jason's not the killer in the original is still something I get a kick out of when people are first discover it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it still happens, even though they spoil it in Scream and numerous other things, but it's still fun when people are unaware of it.
Right. Yeah, I remember how much of a loop I was thrown through. I was like, wait a second. Because like the first couple of kills, it's first person. You don't see who's doing the killing.
Right.
Keeps you in suspense and on edge. Like it does a lot of the time throughout the rest of the franchise, but you just kind of see Jason doing most of the killing. It's no longer first person. So it was his mom.
Right? Yeah, she gets decapitated and then her hands go up and they're hairy knuckles. Tom Savini's hands. It's classic. So in Friday the 13th, part 2, Jason's revealed to be alive and fully grown. After killing Alice Hardy, Jason returns to Crystal Lake to guard it from all intruders. 5 years later, a group of teenagers arrive at Crystal Lake to be trained as camp counselors, but Jason murders them. Ginny Field, the last counselor Jason attempts to kill, finds a cabin in the woods with a shrine built around the severed head of Mrs. Voorhees. Ginny fights back and slams a machete through Jason's shoulder. Jason is left for dead as Ginny is taken away in an ambulance. So this is the beginning of Jason Voorhees as the killer. So in the original movie, we don't ever see Jason until the very, very end. It's a jump scare scene that may or may not be a dream. I think it's alluded very heavily that it is a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the creators originally just intended it to be that. So now that we have Jason miraculously alive, it kind of already throws a wrench in the timeline.
Right.
So he has suddenly become supernatural. Now he hasn't, physically, appearance wise, he hasn't, I don't know, become supernatural, I'll say, because he is very much a normal, disfigured, but a normal human that is just stalking these kids around the camp.
Right. This one portrays him to just have survived the drownings, so to speak,
Right.
didn't it?
Yeah, yeah, essentially, yeah. He looks the same as he did as a kid. He's just bigger, a little bit more hair.
Still human being.
Still human, yes. Um, there was something I was going to say, and now I forget what it was.
My apologies.
That's all right. It's not your fault. So from there, we get Friday the 13th, Part 3. Part 2 is Sackhead Jason. That's what I was going to say. So first movie, we don't get Jason really at all. The second movie, he does wear a mask, but it's pretty much a potato sack over his head.
And it's like burlap sack.
Yeah, yep. So Part 3, Jason removes the machete from his shoulder, finds a way to get to Chris Higgins' local homestead. Chris returns to her property with some teens, and Jason kills anyone who wanders into the barn where he is hiding. Taking a hockey mask from a victim to hide his face, Jason leaves the barn to kill the rest of the group. Chris seemingly kills Jason with an axe to his head, but the night's events drive her into hysteria as the police take her away. So Part 3, we are introduced to the hockey mask Jason.
R.I.P. Shelley. Thanks for the hockey mask, bud.
Right? A lot of people don't like Shelley. I don't mind Shelley.
I think he was endearing. He was a little annoying with, trying to scare everybody, but I think he was just awkward and trying to fit in,
Right,
He wanted
yeah.
people to like him.
Yeah, I would choose Shelley over Franklin from Texas Chainsaw any day.
Yes.
Any day. But yeah, I don't mind Shelley. So yeah, Part 3, we get the hockey mask, and we get the biker, the 3 biker people.
Oh man.
I think they're more annoying than anything. But yeah, Jason pretty much hides out in a barn for most of it and just offs people one by one. It's pretty entertaining. I like Part 3. Are we to your favorite one yet?
Part 3 is my favorite.
There we go. The hockey mask.
Yeah, just because he becomes like the personification of Jason that we know. So, and also I think, was this the one that Tom Savini came back in for the special effects for?
I want to say yes.
So no, he didn't do 2. I think 3 was the one that he came back for the special effects. So it was just, there was a little bit more gore and it was better than 2.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Part 3 is definitely one of my favorites. I love the original, but I don't know. In my rankings, it's not the top by any means.
3 is usually my top in the rankings,
yeah.
but one hangs in the top 5
for sure. Yeah, yeah. Part 3 is always close to my heart because of the hockey mask. Without Part 3, there's no hockey mask.
Absolutely, he's not Jason as we know him.
That's true. So Friday the 13th, the final chapter, continues where Part 3 leaves off, with Jason found by the police and taken to the local morgue after removing the axe. Upon arrival, Jason awakens to kill the coroner and a nurse before returning to Crystal Lake. A group of teens rents a house on Crystal Lake and fall victim to Jason's rampage. After killing the teens, Jason seeks out Trish and Tommy Jarvis, of course played by Corey Feldman, who lives next door. While distracted by Trish, Jason is attacked and ultimately killed by Tommy. So in Part 4 here, of course, like I said, we get Corey Feldman, and we get the kind of odd ending, much like we do in Halloween 4, where the young kids kind of cosplay as the killer. So in this, Tommy shaves his head and grabs a machete and quite literally takes out Jason.
It fucks him up.
He does, yeah. So yeah, I like Part 4 as well. I do like the character of Tommy, and I think it's done really well by Corey Feldman. So with this, we're starting to see Jason slowly become the zombie-like character that we'll see here in a little bit. He's dead, taken to the hospital, and then reanimated. So from here on out, it's very much a Jason dies at the end, and then for whatever circumstance or or however it is, he's brought back to life at the beginning of the next movie, and back to Crystal Lake he goes. So Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, follows Tommy Jarvis, now played by John Shepard, who was committed to a mental health institution after the events of the final chapter and grew up constantly afraid that Jason would return. Roy Burns uses Jason's persona to become a copycat killer at the halfway home to which Tommy has moved. Tommy, Supervisor Pam, and a young boy named Reggie manage to defeat Roy. They eventually learn that Roy has a son who was murdered by one of the patients at the institution, triggering Roy to take on Jason's likeness and kill everyone there. So this one is a little bit different in the fact that it's not Jason at all.
It's my least favorite for that reason.
Is it?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I don't mind it. It is a little odd.
Don't get me wrong, I don't hate it, but like ranking all of them, it falls very, very close, if not at the bottom. Just
Fair
because
enough,
it's
fair
not
enough.
Jason. It's
Right.
like somebody is taking the persona of Jason. It's like, and it's just not Jason.
Yeah, it's just odd.
I also don't like the hockey mask in that one.
The blue.
Yeah.
The blue on the
It
mask.
bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah, I respect it in the fact that they try to do something completely different.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at this point, 1985, we're, a year after Nightmare on Elm Street. So I think 85 is when Elm Street 2 came out. We're probably probably 4 or 5 deep in Halloween. And, for the most part with these big franchises, it's the same killer every movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate the fact that they tried to kind of mix it up, like give us Jason, quote unquote, but there's a twist
In a different light, yeah.
right. And I like the reasoning he had behind it.
Absolutely. I respect it for the
Right.
movie that it is.
Right. But yeah, it's good for a watch or two,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not one that I enjoyed watching repeatedly or anything.
Yeah, it's definitely not one that I've watched as much as the other ones in the franchise.
Right. Damn it, Roy. So Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, begins with Tommy, now played by Tom Matthews, visiting Jason's grave after being released from another mental institution. Tommy inadvertently resurrects Jason with a piece of the fence surrounding the cemetery acting as a lightning rod. Jason immediately heads back to Crystal Lake and kills the people working at the new summer camp. Tommy eventually chains Jason to a boulder that he tosses into a lake, where he leaves Jason, who is revealed to be alive. So this is a lot of people's favorite, I've discovered through TikTok mainly. And I am not a fan of this one.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's in my top 5, but yeah, it's not number 3 for me. There's some kills in this one that I really like, but it's definitely not top. It sits closer to the bottom of my top 5. So
Yeah, I don't
tell me
I
why
don't
you
know.
don't like it, buddy.
Well, I like it because it is Kane Hodder's first movie as Jason.
The Jason we know and love.
Correct. Actually, no, it's not. I'm lying to you. Part 7 is. So I don't have a reason for this one.
Oh.
Now that I think about it. No, this was C.J. Graham. So yeah, we'll delete that from the podcast. But no, I like it because it's the start of the kind of zombie
Yeah.
Jason. So when he's resurrected, he's his whole spine's showing and he looks cool. But it's not as brutal or gory as the other ones.
Right.
Like there's a lot of cut scenes or cutaways, and the character. So Tom Matthews plays Tommy. So at this point we have three movies with Tommy Jarvis, 3 different actors.
Yes.
I don't mind.
We just ignore it.
Yeah, I don't mind Tom Matthews. I like him more than John Shepard, who played Tommy in Part 5. But it's still, I don't know, just it doesn't feel to me like he would be the person who grew up. That was Corey Feldman when he was young. That would grow up to be Tommy Jarvis.
Right.
If that makes sense. And the whole resurrection thing, it's so dumb. That scene is just, it just doesn't work for me.
We go to the grave to make sure that he's dead, and then we accidentally revive him.
Yeah.
I
Somehow.
the concept tickles me. Like I like the concept, but at the same time, because it's just kind of slap in the face.
Right.
You're like, you're gonna go put your fears to rest. You're gonna make sure that the monster that is haunting you in your life and your dreams is actually dead, and you find him dead, but then you're the reason that he revives.
Good job, Tommy Jarvis.
Way to go,
Way
Tommy.
to fuck it up. But yeah, I don't. It just doesn't work for me. Like, I don't know. Like, rewatching them for the reviews, kind of like put more light and made me realize different things about them. Because yeah, previously I probably would have said like, yeah, sure, part 6. That's a good one. But yeah, for me, it just doesn't work. I'm not a big fan of it. But then we get into Friday the 13th, part 7, the New Blood. Begins an indeterminate length of time after Jason lives. Jason, now played by Kane Hodder, is resurrected again by the telekinetic Tina Shepard, who's trying to resurrect her father, whom Tina caused to drown in the lake when she was a child. Jason once again kills those who occupy Crystal Lake and is returned to the bottom of the lake after a battle with Tina. So now we get some telekinesis. So Jason is at the bottom of the lake at part 6. Tommy ties him to a boulder. Boulder sinks. So Jason's just chilling down at the bottom of the lake. Can't get free. So he's fucked. But Tina uses her telekinetic power to accidentally release him from his watery grave.
Way to go, Carrie.
Right? And that actually works more for me than the stupid lightning rod.
Yes.
Even though we're getting telekinesis now, which was never a thing in Friday the 13th, but we roll with it. But yeah, so this is the first Jason played by Kane Hodder. So this one is close to my heart. But yeah, otherwise, it's a decent movie in my opinion, but they just kind of get more ridiculous as they go on.
Oh no, absolutely. And I had a Friday the 13th marathon this weekend. I was showing the boyfriend some of the Friday the 13th movies that he hasn't seen.
Okay.
And I always point out like my favorite kills and like all of the ridiculous weapons that are used, but this like starts the like Kane Hodder Jason. I like the way that like he emotes and shows emotion even though he has a mask on and he's like a dead thing rising. So it's funny to see like the head tilts or just like things that make you giggle because you're like the way that he's responding to the situation.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that because yeah, I mean Kane Hodder is the only actor to play Jason more than once. But he's also kind of the most animated. So I think that's probably why he's my favorite as well, because he kind of brings life to a lifeless character,
right?
Quote unquote. So yeah, I enjoy Kane Hodder's portrayal of Jason. So Jason's resurrected again, and Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan by an underwater electrical cable. He follows a group of students on their senior class cruise to Manhattan, where he kills the ship's crew and the majority of the students. Upon reaching Manhattan, Jason chases Rennie and Sean, the 2 remaining students, into the sewers. Jason eventually melts away because the sewer is flooded with toxic waste. By far, up to this point, in 8 movies, the most ridiculous,
absolutely.
But this one has always been my favorite.
I love it. It's number 2 for me.
Like it makes no sense. It's completely ridiculous, and I don't know why, but I've always, ever since I've been a kid, I've always enjoyed this one the most.
The scene where the sewer gets flooded out with the toxic waste. I said Teenage Mutant Ninja Jason instead of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they're not even in New York very long, maybe like 20 minutes. And none of it makes sense.
There's also a lot of continuity errors in this one. Like, how does he get from Crystal Lake to where they set sail?
Right. Yeah. And how do they get to the ocean from Crystal Lake?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that don't add up.
I tend to ignore the ridiculous things just because of how much I love the movie.
Pretty much what you have to do.
There's one particular scene that I always laugh at, like whenever he like sees the billboard with the hockey mask,
Oh yes.
he just goes,
Yeah, I do. I like that part, and I like when he kicks the boombox.
yes, that's an iconic scene.
Absolutely. But yeah, the ending is atrocious. Makes zero sense. Why? First of all, there's toxic waste just flowing through the sewers of New York. Why Jason, when he gets in toxic waste, somehow reverts back to his young self.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and then like what happens from there? Do they just leave him? They just leave a small child down in the sewer? Do they take him with them?
In the toxic waste, he just
Um,
stays.
yeah, I don't know. It's very odd. It's almost as odd as Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday.
I don't want to talk about this one.
So Jason, through an unexplained resurrection. So he was a small child. We left him as a small child in the sewers of New York City. Now, the beginning of this one, he is a full monster, like literally like skin pushing out over his mask.
Bubbling up.
Yeah, he's a mess. But he's hunted by the FBI at Crystal Lake. The FBI sets up a sting that successfully kills Jason. Through possession, Jason manages to survive by passing his black heart from one being to the next. It is revealed that he has a sister and a niece, and that he needs them to get his body back. Jason resurrects himself, but his niece, Jessica Kimball, stabs him with a mystical dagger, and he is dragged into hell. Wow. Yeah. There's no words for Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah, this one, the scene where like his heart becomes like him in baby form. It bothers me.
There's a lot about this movie that bothers me.
The entirety of it bothers me.
Pretty much, yeah. This is another one that they tried to go a different route, and unlike Part 5, this one doesn't work at all.
Yeah, this one kind of misses the mark a little bit.
Yeah. It's Jason as a possession, and it's just really weird. The acting's bad. The plot is terrible, obviously. And it doesn't make any sense. There's no continuity at all to this one. It's rough.
A little rough.
So I mean, how do you follow up Jason Goes to Hell other than Jason X?
Jason in space.
Takes place in the future when Jason has again been inexplicably resurrected. Huh. A scientist,
Imagine that.
a scientist, Roman LaFontaine, decides to cryonic suspension is the only method of stopping him. But Jason breaks free and kills the army personnel guarding him before he can be again imprisoned. Rowan manages to lure Jason into a cryo chamber, but he ruptures the tank and freezes both himself and Rowan. Over 400 years later, a team of students studying Earth discover Jason's body and take it into space. Upon being thawed by the team, he proceeds to murder everyone aboard the spacecraft. He is seemingly killed, but is then resurrected via nanotechnology as a cyborg version of himself. Finally, he's ejected into space and incinerated by Earth 2's atmosphere, his mask falling to the bottom of a lake. So there's that.
He died becoming a shooting star.
He did. He was a firework.
Cue the Katy Perry.
Right. So Jason X, I enjoy it.
So do I. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so fucking ridiculous that I actually really enjoy it. Not because it's good, but it's so bad it's good.
Right. We enjoy ridiculous movies around here, but I think this one ranks number 3 for me because it doesn't surpass the other two of my favorites, but like I said earlier, this was my introduction to Jason. Right. This was the first movie. I was at a sleepover with one of my best friends and her cousin at the time, and I just remember staying up really late and watching this, and I think it was Darkness Falls, but my mind was blown. I was like, whoa, what is this? I need more of this, and then I just kind of threw myself into more horror and then the entirety of the rest of the Friday the 13th franchise.
What a starting point.
I have great memories and love for this movie.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's
Uber Jason, Cyborg Jason.
Right? Like it's so ridiculous, but it works for me. Like there's so much cool shit about this movie.
My favorite scene out of the entirety of it, though, is the fight scene between him and the KM android, because
Yeah.
after she gets her upgrade, she seemingly becomes like a ninja.
Yeah.
And she shoots off his limbs.
Yeah.
It was pretty great. It was very action packed. I loved it. Just
It's got it all, really.
10-year-old me, very mind blown at like very late at night watching this movie. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, this one. I mean, this one starts, or not starts, but at the very beginning, we have a little cameo from that guy,
That one guy.
David Cronenberg,
That guy.
and yeah, it's. I mean, this is the final movie that Kane Hodder played Jason, and yeah, it's in space, it's in the future, and yeah, it's just it's so bad, but it's so ridiculous, it's so fun, and Uber Jason is iconic.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm a huge fan of that one. So the next Friday the 13th film, Freddy vs. Jason, was a crossover with A Nightmare on Elm Street. Set in the contemporary period, Freddy Krueger resurrects Jason and sends him to Springwood, hoping that he will create enough fear among the residents that Freddy will be strong enough to invade their dreams. Jason accomplishes this but refuses to stop killing. A battle ensues both in the dream world and at Crystal Lake. The outcome is left ambiguous as Jason surfaces from the lake holding Freddy's severed head, which winks and laughs. So how do you feel about Freddy vs. Jason?
I love Freddy vs. Jason. People give it hate, but I think it was a fan service movie, so to speak, because of the ending of Jason Goes to Hell and the Freddy hand dragging the Jason mask underneath. Like, fans were clamoring for Freddy versus Jason ever since then.
Right.
But I think they did both franchises justice with this movie. I mean, there's a lot of it that's ridiculous, but it's kind of a core movie that is in my top 5.
Fair enough. So I really enjoyed it when it first came out.
And then,
Now, with each viewing, I enjoy it less and less.
oh no.
But I really I think it was an awesome team up, or whatever, versus movie.
Mhm.
And it was supposed to be the start of kind of not a franchise, but something similar type of universe,
Right.
which unfortunately never happened. But I'm salty still that they didn't have Robert Englund versus Kane Hodder.
Yeah.
They recast Jason, so I've always been a little salty about that.
Understandable.
The story, I think, it works really well.
Yeah.
Like how they bring the characters together, I think that's really cool.
I think the movie was really well done as well. Like, obviously, a lot of the earlier movies being in the 80s
Mhm.
and not having quite as much of a budget, or not like as quality film,
Right.
it bringing it into like the 20th 21st century, like, I think they do a really good job with it.
Yeah, I mean, production-wise, yeah,
Absolutely.
it looks good. I'm not a huge fan of the cast for the most part.
There's a couple of people in the cast that I love. The rest of them I could take or leave.
Yeah.
And I'm sad that there's a particular person that dies.
Which one?
Trying to remember the name of his actor. Oh, what the hell is it? I think his last name's Arquette. Why am I blanking on this?
It always happens on here.
Yeah, no.
You can remember it until you're on the spot, and then nope.
Chris Marquette. That's what it is. His character dies against the tree.
Oh, is he like the nerdy kid?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
I had a huge crush on him.
Okay, all right. But yeah, like I can't think of any of their names either. Obviously, like John Ritter's son, right? He's in that. He's like the main dude. Is that John Ritter's son?
Is it? Are we both blanking
Jason
right
Ritter. No, I'm pretty sure it's Jason Ritter.
now? Yeah, no. Yep.
He's whatever. And then like his girlfriend chick, she's whatever. She's fine.
Girlfriend
like
chick.
Kelly Rowland, no.
No, she
Terrible
She
actress.
definitely overplays it.
Yeah.
Very much so. Her character was definitely always annoying.
Yeah. And then there's Catherine Isabel. Huge fan of Catherine Isabel. So I really liked her in it. But
Mhm.
other than that, with besides Robert Englund, the rest, whatever.
Meh. Take
But I
him or
mean,
leave him.
what's his name? Ken Kurtzinger, the guy that plays Jason.
Yeah.
Even though it's not Kane Hodder, I think he still did a really good job.
Oh, yeah, I
And he's
think-
fucking huge.
Yes, he is.
So,
he is a monster of a man.
So yeah, I mean, overall, it's a fun movie.
Mhm.
It's definitely not the worst by any means.
No.
And I wish they would have kind of continued and had what was it supposed to be, like Freddy versus Jason versus Pinhead?
Something like that.
I think was supposed to be the next.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously they continued it in comic form with Freddy versus Jason versus Ash.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the movies, this was the
man, I'd
last.
kill for that
This was the
movie.
last crossover. Well, I shouldn't say the last, but as far as American version, it was the last.
Right.
Because they did the Ring versus Grudge crossover, but not in America.
Not in America.
True. So in 2009, a new Friday the 13th film, which restarted the film series continuity, was released. In this film, after witnessing his mother being beheaded at a young age, an adult Jason follows in her footsteps and kills anyone who comes to Crystal Lake. Jason subsequently kidnaps a young woman, Whitney Miller, who resembles his mother at a young age. 6 weeks after her disappearance, her brother Clay Miller comes to look for her. The pair reunite and work together to seemingly kill Jason. So how do you feel about the remake?
I like the remake. I think with the amount that they were able to storytell from, pretty much the first three I think they did it justice. I think it was a good remake or reboot, whatever it's classified as.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do. I just watched this the other day for the review on Friday. And I agree with you. I like that they took kind of the first three movies and did a retelling of them. In the first 25 minutes, like the opening scene, quote unquote, is fucking phenomenal.
Very long opening scene, but yeah,
it is. But it's so good. Like they could have just made that like a short, and it would have been perfect.
I think it definitely falls off a little bit after that.
Yeah,
but I don't hate it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's still entertaining. It's still fun.
I think the cast. I think they did good with the cast, but maybe that's just because I like Jared Padalecki.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his. I don't think he's a good actor. But
I'll forgive you.
once we're introduced to that set of characters, he's definitely the best actor out of all of them. I will give him that.
Okay.
But yeah, like
the bar is low.
the characters, like after that introduction, the characters that we're with the rest of the movie are just they're so they're stereotypes.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even hide it. Like they're just every single person is a stereotype, and it bugs me because I don't know if it was like a parody or like they were like it was kind of like a being aware of itself, like kind of like a Scream type deal. I could get it, but it's like they're trying to make a serious remake to Friday the 13th, and they use these characters that are very clearly stereotypes, and it just annoyed me. But like the kills are cool. Again, the actor who plays Jason, Derek Mears. Derek Mears plays Jason. Okay. I think he did a really good job. I really like Jason in this one because we get young Jason, we get the sackhead Jason, and then we get the hockey mask. So yeah, I think overall it was a valiant effort. Not the best remake, but no, absolutely not the worst.
Not. Yep.
So
could have been worse.
For sure. Oh yeah. It could always be worse.
I always tell myself that when I'm watching horror movies though. It could always be worse.
It could always be worse. But yeah, so that's all the movies that we've gotten so far. Now scrolling down here, there's quite a bit of information here. So we have some canceled projects.
Ooh.
So let's see what that's all about. So shortly after the 2009 reboot's theatrical release, producers Brad Fuller and Andrew Form expressed an interest in producing another Friday the 13th film, citing the enjoyment they had working on the reboot. So in October 2009, Warner Brothers Pictures planned to release the Friday the 13th sequel on August 13th, 2010. But on December 10th, the studio pulled the sequel from the planned release slot and listed its release as TBD, of course, to be determined. Warner Brothers also announced that Damian Shannon and Mark Swift were penning the sequel. In April 2010, Fuller announced on his Twitter page that a sequel to the 2009 remake was no longer in the works, declaring it, quote, dead, not happening. In a later interview, Fuller explained that the 2009 reboot was the result of a joint effort between Paramount and New Line Cinema, as both owned portions of the Friday the 13th franchise. With financial problems, both studios were limiting the films they produced each year, opting to produce films carrying lower risks and higher rewards. Accordingly, the companies put Friday the 13th Part 2 on hold in hopes that they would move forward with this next installment when the economy bounced back. Form explained that neither studio would walk away from the sequel's production to allow the other to move forward as the primary producing house, each studio concerned that its players would look like, quote, idiots should the sequel perform well without its involvement. Form and Fuller also mentioned that the Friday the 13th sequel may be a 3D film should it ever again be greenlit for production by the studios. So that just seems like a battle between two studios, a bunch of bullshit.
Another 3D film?
Yeah, right?
3 was the only one that was released in 3D.
It was.
Mm.
And it's all the better for it. So Paramount had the rights from 2013 to 2017. So Shannon Swift completed the script for a sequel in February 2011, according to Fuller's claim on Twitter. He was ready to begin production, but that New Line Cinema was not. In June 2013, Warner Brothers relinquished its film rights to the Friday the 13th series to Paramount as part of a deal that would allow Warner Brothers to co-produce Interstellar. 1 week later, Derek Mears revealed that Paramount was working with Platinum Dunes to make a new installment, quote, as fast as possible. So David Bruckner was set to direct the next installment of Friday the 13th. Bruckner's original script was co-written with Ian Goldberg and Richard Nang and was a found footage film as mandated by the studio. So after altering the release date numerous times, Paramount pushed back the film's release date to January 13th, 2017. So 2 months later, Aaron Guzikowski was negotiating a deal to write a new script, but Bruckner, who had reportedly left the project in 2015, was no longer involved as a director. At the end of May 2016, Fuller revealed that the reboot would be an origin story for Jason and his mother would be in the film. On August 8th, Brett Eisner was in talks to direct the reboot. In September, Paramount pushed back the reboot's release date from January 13th to October 13th, 2017. The reboot's working title was reported as Friday the 13th, Part 13. Platinum Dunes was looking for someone to play young Jason Voorhees, and production to begin in March, slated for October 13th, 2017 release date. On February 6th, Paramount officially canceled the project, and Paramount assigned the planned October release date to the then upcoming film Mother. On October 10th, Shannon and Swift revealed the title of their proposed sequel, Friday the 13th, Camp Blood, The Death of Jason Voorhees. The rights to the franchise reverted back to New Line Warner Brothers in 2018. So I remember when that was in talks, because it was supposed to be a found footage movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I believe it was that one was supposed to be like in winter, like the winter time, like in the snow. So like Jason the Snow, yes. Found footage, I don't know about all that.
There's only been a couple of found footage movies in my entire life of me watching that I've been able to stomach, so.
Oh yeah, like the shaky cam shit?
Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of found footage movies just because it gets annoying.
Yeah, I feel that. I can do some. But yeah.
Like if it incorporates it.
Right.
The entire movie, it bothers me.
Like one that really bugs me, that's a really good movie, but I hate that it's found footage, is Cloverfield.
Yes.
Like,
I do enjoy Cloverfield.
If it wasn't found footage, it'd be a fucking amazing movie. But I can't stand to watch it because it's just someone throwing a camera around for 2 hours. It bugs me so bad.
Hold still.
Yeah, right? And like, why are you filming this? Like, run for your lives. You don't need to film it. So, lawsuit and other projects 2018 to 2022. So, Victor Miller, who wrote the original Friday the 13th screenplay, asserted that Horror Inc. derived its current copyright to the screenplay from Miller's transfer of copyright to Horror Inc.'s predecessor in interest, the Manny Company. Miller sent a notice of termination to Horror Inc. on January 26, 2016, purportedly reclaiming his rights to the screenplay and the content contained therein through termination of the transfer of rights he had formerly made to the Manny Company.
That was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful. I retained zero of that information. So original film producer Sean S. Cunningham claims that Miller wrote the screenplay for Friday the 13th as a work made for hire for the Manny Company. Under copyright law, an employer is considered the statutory author and copyright holder if a work is made in the employee's scope of employment.
Yeah, you tell him, Sean S. Cunningham.
Right? If, as Cunningham contends, Miller wrote the screenplay as the Manny Company's employee, he never held a copyright to the screenplay to transfer or reclaim.
Take that.
We'll wind it back. A lawsuit seeking the parties' declaration of rights was filed in a federal court in Connecticut. On September 28, 2018, Miller won the rights against Cunningham. Cunningham appealed. The appeal was withdrawn due to technical reasons and then reinstated by the deadline of April 12th the following year. On September 30th, 2021, Miller won the domestic rights for the lawsuit.
Oh.
So in October 2018, LeBron James and his production company, Spring Hill Entertainment, were in talks to co-produce the next film. A month later, screenwriter Clint Ford started writing a prequel screenplay for the franchise titled Friday the 13th: The Beginning. In July 2019, Tom McLaughlin, writer and director of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, revealed that he authored a speculative script for a sequel film titled Jason Never Dies.
Oh.
McLaughlin confirmed the film would have served as a direct sequel to Jason Lives, ignoring the other films in the franchise. In 2022, McLaughlin also wrote another film with co-writer James Sweet, which was a prequel to the 1980 film titled Diary of Pamela Voorhees.
As if the timeline wasn't already fucked up enough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you don't need to do like a reboot or like what Halloween and Pet Sematary, not Pet Sematary, the hell other one did it. But regardless, like where you like
too many of them,
where you cancel out the other sequels,
yes,
because none of them really coincide with the other.
Right.
Like, I mean, 4, 5, 6 because of Tommy Jarvis, but there's not like a coherent story. So yeah, they're pretty much reboots of each other anyway. So we don't really need to go that route. So the future of the franchise. So apparently a television series prequel. So on October 31st, 2022, a Friday the 13th prequel series was announced titled Crystal Lake. It'll be written and executive produced by Brian Fuller and Victor Miller, along with executive producers Mark Toberoff and Rob Barsamian. A24 will serve as a studio behind the series, and it will air on Peacock. In January of this year, Adrienne King was cast in a recurring, undisclosed role. She previously portrayed Alice Hardy in the 1980 original film. Writing for the series was slated to begin in late January 23, with Kevin Williamson writing one episode for season 1. I haven't heard anything about that really since.
Me either, but I was excited to see her name.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see. Potential film reboot in January of this year. Writer Jeff Locker said that he, alongside Jeremy Wise and Sean Cunningham, pitched a new Friday the 13th reboot, 13th, while also having a plan for an alternate direct sequel to the original film. So here we go again.
And we're just altering the timeline again. How
right.
many brackets do we have now?
Yeah, right. Just another timeline, another universe.
Another one.
Another. So, yeah, who knows? Because, like I said, yeah, the last I heard was the Crystal Lake TV show, but they're still working out all the rights and shit.
Mm-hmm.
So there was speculation that it wouldn't have Jason, or that it wouldn't have Hockey Mask Jason. It would be, a prequel. But yeah, I don't really know. It's all up in the air. And then with the writer's strike, obviously nothing happened
Mm-hmm.
In the writing world. So I don't know. We'll have to kind of wait and see and see what happens.
I will be eagerly waiting.
What would you rather have, like just another sequel, a prequel? What would you like to see in the Friday the 13th world?
There's so much that they could do if they do a prequel. Like they could, show Jason as a child at summer camp and like go through that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to do something. It's now been 2003. It's been 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I guess 2009 was the last reboot. So even still, that's 14 years?
Something like that.
So
You're better at math than I am.
sometimes I would rather, if we're going to do a prequel, you might as well just start fresh.
Okay.
Let's just start over. Have it be about Pamela Voorhees, but not just my son drowned in the lake.
Okay.
Like either we're gonna go supernatural, zombified, undead, or we're gonna do kind of more realistic. So you gotta start one way or the other. If they're gonna do more realistic, then Jason needs to not drown.
Right.
So maybe he is he's obviously bullied and thrown in the lake, whatever. But make it so that he's fucked up, but he didn't die, and then she can take her revenge on the kids.
Yeah.
Um,
I would also like to see more portrayals of her though, because it could answer the question of, was she psychotic and before she snapped when Jason died?
that's true. Yeah, yeah. It might have been going on for a while. We have no idea.
I don't know.
So yeah, I wouldn't mind it. A good, as long as it's done right. A good backstory to old Pam. That'd be cool.
It would.
So now that we went through all that shit, what's your favorite kill in the franchise?
Oh man. I think my favorite kill overall is in Jason X when I don't know, like one of the military guys like is on that giant corkscrew because it leads to the joke of the other military girl going over the radio saying he's screwed. It just makes me laugh. That's one of my favorite kills.
So I have a couple, like the beanbag, the sleeping bag kill,
Yes.
which they do show again in Jason X.
Mm-hmm.
But my all-time favorite is also from Jason X, and it's the frozen face that he
Yes.
bashes off of the table.
Yes.
Um,
Death by liquid nitrogen.
Yes, that's always, ever since I first saw that kill, it's been my favorite. It again makes zero sense, but I love it. It's great.
Which one was it? Was it 5? The deputy or the sheriff gets folded in half? Is it 5 or 6?
Ooh, I don't. 40.5 always just makes me think of Freddy vs. Jason. But yeah, they did do it. I think in one of the previous ones. I'm not sure exactly
It was
which one
really
it was.
gnarly. No, because I know it's Tommy Jarvis is in that one as an adult. It's that sheriff. He gets folded in half. That's his death.
Okay.
It was really gnarly, like backwards.
Right. Is it 6? Because 5 would be Roy. Is Roy strong
It
enough
would
to
be
do that?
6.
Has to be part 6.
Yeah, it would be part 6.
Figure it out by elimination.
Yes.
Roy can't do that.
No, not
You
strong
bitch.
enough. But his death was pretty gnarly too, like falling onto that farm equipment, whatever the hell that it's called.
Oh
like all of
yeah,
the
spikes. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was very clearly him and not a dummy.
Yes.
There's great effects there. But yeah,
At least
that's
it wasn't CGI.
that's the Friday the 13th franchise. Well, what do you guys think? Let us know. Send us an email. bloodgoreandghouls@gmail.com.
Fancy email.
Yeah. I got an email now. I fucked it up last show. I said it correctly twice and then I fucked it up at the end. So try not to do that this time.
I'm just gonna spam email that email.
That's fine. I'm fine with it. Get some traffic in there.
All right.
But yeah, you have any other final Friday the 13th thoughts?
Oh man. I don't know. Jason, I love how like opportunistic Jason always is with weapons, because like he's iconically portrayed with the machete.
Mm-hmm.
But like my favorite thing when going through and watching, like as a kid and even as an adult when I rewatch them, is like keeping track of what weapons he uses. And this past weekend, whenever I was watching him with boyfriend, I was like, wait, what weapon did he use there?
Yeah, he's.
I like the machete kills, but I like even more the more non-machete kills. The
creative ones.
Yeah, the creative ones. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you, bud.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for. Yeah, he does get pretty creative with weapons and things that aren't weapons that he turns into weapons.
He uses windows as weapons as well.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So many iconic scenes of bodies flying through windows, including Jason flying through windows.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of part 2.
Hmm.
Jumping through windows, which they did recreate in the reboot. I caught that. I don't think I've
Hmm.
caught that before. I caught that on the last watch. Thought that was a cool little nod to that. But yeah. So, out of all of them, then, which one is your favorite Jason?
Mm, I think Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason is my favorite Jason. One, because it's one of the most like iconic masks, like with all of the triangles on
Mhm.
it. And just how expressive he is.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, I think 7 is mine. I just really like that zombie,
Mm-hmm.
like the because I mean he's zombified in part 8 as well, but it's like the whole outfit. I think it's like the kind of like real dark green
Mm-hmm.
jumpsuit
Yeah,
and
that one is
the
more iconic Jason as well.
yeah, like the exposed spine and the mask that's like broken apart.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite. Part 7 for sure. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. What's your favorite Friday the 13th movie? What's your favorite Jason? What do you want to see next? Where should this franchise go? Let us know. But that's going to do it for another episode of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Blood, Gore, and Ghouls _podcast, on Twitch at Ian Van Ghoul, join the Ghoul Squad Discord, subscribe on YouTube, follow on TikTok at Ian.VanGhoul, and send us an email at bloodgoreandghoulspodcast@gmail.com. As always, all links can be found in the show notes. And Julie, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
Where can,
inviting me.
where can the kids find you if they'd like to?
Oh, I mean, I'm on TikTok, Loneliest Nightmare. I haven't made a TikTok in forever. I'm on Instagram, also, Loneliest Nightmare.
You were Loneliest Nightmare, and then I rebranded you Ghoulie Juli.
I am Ghoulie Juli. Absolutely. I should just change all of my stuff to Ghoulie Juli.
I mean, if you want, it's up to you.
I don't want to steal the ghoul thing.
No pressure. Ghoulie Juli.
Ghoulie Juli.
But again, thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. Until next week, I've been your host, Ian Van Ghoul. Have a ghoulish week and stay safe out there.